Jonesy and Amanda.
Jam Nation.
Well, as we've been saying all morning, Australia is one of the biggest exporters of gas in the world. But compared to other countries, we're making next to no money from it. And as consumers, we're paying through the nose for it. Who's making the money? What's going on? One of the people who's spoken out about this is independent politician David Pocock, who joins us now. Good morning, David.
Morning, Jonesy and Amanda.
David, when we say next to no money, when Amanda says that, is it actually next to no money?
Well, for our offshore LNG exports, here in Australia, states and territories can't levy a royalty on offshore waters, and so the Commonwealth Government's the one who's meant to get money from that. Last time I checked with Treasury, we had received 0 cents for our offshore LNG exports. We're one of the biggest offshore LNG exporters in the world. It just makes no sense to me that we're giving away a finite resource for free to mostly multinational corporations who then don't actually pay much tax here.
That's the thing. So we don't get the gas in Australia and they're not paying the tax, so we're not getting the revenue. Who set up this system and why is it like that? Why are we doing this?
Both sides of politics have overseen this where, on the one hand, we're giving away gas for free, and then we're also not saying you have to at least put a certain percentage of gas into the East Coast gas market. And so we're essentially paying export prices for our own gas. Yeah, Impex up in Darwin, I think, is a really good example of everything that's wrong with our this whole sort of regime of giving away our gas. They export 9 million tons annually, which doesn't really mean much, but that's more than New South Wales, Victoria, and South Australia use combined. They pay no royalties on the gas that they extract. They've never paid petroleum resource rent tax, and they hardly pay any tax at all on their sort of corporate tax. So not contributing, getting our gas for free, exporting it to Japan, and then we learn out that Japan is now importing and then exporting our gas. They've become this sort of middleman with our gas and made over $1 billion last year from doing that to our own gas. So we're getting totally dudded as a country.
I look at the UAE with petrol over there. So in Dubai, you're paying $1 a litre for fuel. If that was the case, if we had the same thing here, we should be getting gas for as cheap as chips. We should, like my last gas bill was $1,600. That's on top, and the electric bill was $1,300. And that's quite phenomenal. I just don't understand. We should be getting it for free. We should be like the Arabs.
It should be cheaper, and I've met with big industrial gas users who are using it to make fertilizer and other things, and they say they're paying $20 a gigajoule, and they know that it's being exported in some instances at $4 a gigajoule. So I don't understand why politicians aren't putting Australians ahead of the interests of multinationals and foreign countries. Like, this is our gas; it's a finite resource. We should be getting a good return on it, and I think you only have to look at Norway, the approach they've taken to oil and gas. They have a $2.8 trillion sovereign wealth fund for their future, and we've got $1 trillion of national debt, despite being one of the biggest fossil fuel exporters in the world when it comes to coal, gas, iron ore exports, all of these things that belong to all of us, and yet we're not capturing the value of that. And I really think that needs to change. I think more and more Australians are waking up to that and saying, hey, you've got to put us first. This is money that could be going into education and healthcare.
Can we get out of it, though? This deal's done for 40 years. We can't do anything about it.
So the argument that the major parties put forward is exactly that. Sovereign risk, we can't do anything. One of the things that I've been pushing them on is even if you just look at uncontracted gas. So there's gas that has long-term contracts, and then there's this big pool of uncontracted gas, which is multiples of any projected shortfall here in Australia. If we just said, right, any uncontracted gas has to come to Australians first, that's a solution. So, I don't really understand why there isn't the political will there. It seems like they're a bit captured by these corporations and putting them ahead of all of us. This belongs to us. So, I think there's more and more voices speaking up on this, and I think once more Australians understand what's actually being happened, how we're being scammed, that there'll be change.
Well, David, you brought it to our attention.
Yes, and
this is great.
Our kids are paying more through HEX, and these multinationals are paying tax on our natural resources.
Yep. Young people are paying more back in HEX than we're getting from gas. Nurses pay more tax than we're getting from gas. And, I think the gas companies are getting very sensitive about this. Every time I talk about it, I get letters from gas companies trying to point out that they pay things like payroll tax and, other taxes. But, that seems pretty standard to me. Most businesses are paying that, and most businesses aren't getting their inputs basically for free. So this does need to change.
Well, David, thank you for joining us, and thank you for setting us straight on that.
Well, thanks heaps for covering it. I think this is a really important one.
Of course it is.
Well, independent politician there, David Pocock. So interesting, isn't it? And outrageous.